Welcome back. You know, I love a good analogy. You know that, right? Okay, well, I have another great one for you. Analogy, metaphor, example. You'll like it. I'm on the way to dinner to meet my family, and it was raining. And if you're in my area, you know what Granada Boulevard is. I'm on Granada Boulevard heading east, and I'm driving along, and all of a sudden, there's somebody in the left lane to go into the trails, and there's a little turn lane there, and they decided to get out of the turn lane. And did I mention it was raining? Okay, that's important for the story. So they get out of the left lane and pull in front of the two cars in front of me. Now, the reason I know all this is I like to look way ahead when I'm driving. I don't drive at the end of the hood. I drive as far down the road as I can, because as I often tell my kids, you can't just look out for your own driving and how you're conducting your vehicle. You've got to look out for other people. So I saw the person pull out, and immediately I noticed they were going very slow. I said, okay, this is not going to good. What ran through my mind is this is not going to be good. So I started putting my brakes on right away. Two cars in front of me slam on their brakes. So first car slams on their brakes, second car, I'm third, I slam on my brakes. The guy behind me slams on his brakes. The guy behind him did not, or did not quickly enough. So the guy 2 cars back hits the car behind me, and it was weird because I'm looking in the rearview mirror. You know, all this happens so fast. It feels like it's in slow motion, but it's like seconds, right? So I look back, and the guy behind me is all of a sudden, it looked like he was stopping. He's coming at me again, and that was because the guy behind him hit him and pushed him into me. And it was weird because, like in slow motion, I saw his airbags pop open like a couple of popcorn kernels, you know, kind of bursting in slow motion. I thought, that's really weird. And I'm like, and then I look forward again, and the car in front of me was starting to pull away. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I've got time here. So I immediately took my foot from the brake to the gas pedal, but there wasn't enough time. I'm thinking, okay, maybe, you know, if I could get my foot over the gas pedal and I can accelerate out of the car's way coming at me. Not fast enough. Next thing I know, this vehicle, it's a small car, but it hit my back of my car, the bumper, like a sledgehammer. And I then was launched forward again. Thank God my foot was not on the brake, because it pushed me forward, and now next thing I know, I'm going forward on my original path. So I said, all right, obviously I've got to go see what happened here. I have to report to the scene of the accident. I was tempted, to be honest with you, to go find the person that created this whole problem and ask them to stop politely to go back to the scene of the accident, but I didn't do that. Better judgment got a hold of me very quickly. So I went back to the scene of the accident, pulled in line with everybody else in the proper kind of, we all knew to get in line of where we were and how it worked. So I assessed the damage. Rear end of my car took the brunt of the damage. Nobody was hurt, which is the most important part of the story, but nobody was hurt, but my car took a hit. Now, I tell you all this to tell you that, number one, there's nothing I could have done differently. I've run this through in my mind, as you might imagine, many, many times. In fact, there were a lot of things I did right that kept this from being a lot worse. So, number one, I was paying attention. I wasn't distracted by a cell phone call. I wasn't fiddling with the radio. I had 2 kids in the back seat. Both of them were being very well behaved. Thank you very much. They were consumed in their iPads, and they weren't fighting. I wasn't having to turn around and tell them to be quiet or, you know, distracted by them. I was on the way to dinner, and I actually thought about having a glass of wine before going to dinner, and then got busy doing something else and didn't. So I had not had a pre-cocktail for dinner. What else? A few other things. But the point is that I was very focused. Oh, and I was driving looking ahead. I was looking forward. I knew it was raining. I was being careful. So all those things were important. The other thing is, when the accident occurred, I didn't panic. I didn't try to jump into the median or very quickly go into the other lane. So I just navigated. Now, the point of all this story is it's an outstanding analogy. I didn't want this to happen, but It happens, so I get to tell the story and use it as an analogy for how we invest. How we invest and how we plan our retirement, how we make good choices, how we navigate the road to retirement. So a couple thoughts. First is that when you are on the road to retirement, you want to make sure that your retirement vehicle is resilient. You know, that bumper, it was very well made. It did what it was supposed to do. It was crumpled all up, but it did what it was supposed to do. You need to make sure your investment, your plan, can see you through on the road. You don't want to, if something happens, all of a sudden you get crushed, okay, like a tin can. You want your retirement vehicle or your overall plan to be well made, to absorb a market correction, and it doesn't wreck your whole plan. Seems like a good analogy to me. You also want to monitor your investments just as you would your mirrors. You know, and then looking out and paying attention way ahead. You've got to stay focused. You've got to stay tuned into your investments because you can't just ignore them. And the other thing is you need to have checkups on your retirement vehicle. You know, my car was in good shape. My brakes were great. What if my brakes weren't in good shape? What if I hadn't had proper maintenance? You know, what if all the lights were on the dash and there were things that made my ability to navigate that accident situation not as good, not as strong? These are all things that are important to think about. The other is you got to be in the right vehicle based on where you are. You know, the thing you don't want to do is have to speed up. You know, I wasn't running late. I forgot probably one of the most important parts of the story. I wasn't speeding. Not that I ever would, of course, but I wasn't speeding. I think the speed limit's 45. I think I was probably doing 43, 45, right in that range. I wasn't speeding on the road to retirement, right? So the point is you don't want to have to try to make up for lost time by speeding and being something that is in a too risky of a category for you. Because these things, usually, they don't end well. Yes, you can get quote-unquote lucky. I believe more in chance as opposed to luck. If things are going really well and you accidentally or on purpose are more aggressive than you should be, well, then, you know, if things go well, then okay, you got the benefit of that. It happens. But that's not really the place you want to be when you're trying to be smart with your retirement planning. You want to be in a place where you don't have to count on dumb luck or chance or the universe opening up and smiling at you and giving you exactly what you need at the exact right time. It just doesn't work that way. And if it does, it is just chance. So take more deliberate steps about your retirement and how you invest. Don't look at the herd mentality. Don't get caught up in what everybody else is doing. Do what's best for you. And if you do that, you'll plan stronger.